Good morning. I don't know about you, but these past several months, I've been really trying to seek and search for God and try to know and understand Him more. I'm not telling you that to brag in any way. In fact, I'm a bit ashamed of that, and I'm going to do my best to explain what I mean by that in this devotional. I've been reading through Exodus about how God delivers His people from Egypt. And as I was reading through the account of the plagues, I noticed that I was kind of critical of Pharaoh. How in the world, I thought, could he go through all of those plagues and allow his people to go through all those plagues and still refuse to let the Israelites leave Egypt? I didn't understand that. I was judgmental of Pharaoh until the other day when I got to chapter 8 of Exodus. I realized that I am just like Pharaoh. Listen to this verse, Exodus 8:15. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. Now, the phrase that really grabbed my attention was, when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart. Respite means a temporary relief. So when he had a little break from the plague, then he would get a hardened heart. This was after the plague of frogs that I was reading. And if you read the whole account of the plagues, you'll see that several times when things got really bad, then Pharaoh would finally decide to let the Israelites go sacrifice to their God. But he always put some boundaries on them going. For example, after the plague of flies, Pharaoh finally gave them permission to go sacrifice to God, but he told the Israelites they had to stay in Egypt to do it. You can go sacrifice, but don't leave the country. Well, then later he changed his mind and agreed to let them actually leave Egypt, but he told them they couldn't go very far away. And you'll read that in Exodus 8:28. So Moses finally, he says, okay, Pharaoh says you can leave Egypt. So Moses asks God to remove the swarms of flies. And once God does so, Pharaoh hardens his heart and changes his mind, and then he refuses to let the Israelites go. And you can find that in Exodus 8:32. We see the same pattern with Pharaoh over and over again throughout the whole account of the plagues. The plague comes, Pharaoh doesn't like it, and so he agrees to let the Israelites go. Moses prays, God lifts the plague, and then Pharaoh's heart is hardened once again. As soon as everything is back to normal, he won't let the Israelites leave. I've read this account many times, and I've taught it many times in Sunday school and kindergarten, but I never realized until the other day that I'm just like Pharaoh. When things aren't going well, when there's a pandemic or a family member is going through a hard time, when finances are tight or a friend is struggling, when there's a problem at church, might I say when there is a plague, I find my heart becoming softer and more tender towards God. I start reading my Bible more. I long to read the Bible. I search it and I hope for God to speak to me. I pray more. I feel that I begin to draw closer and closer to God. However, when the plague is lifted, or when things go back to normal, when the family member comes through the trial okay, when there's money in the bank, everything's great at church, I find that I don't, quote, need God like I do when I'm going through the plague. In a sense, then, like Pharaoh, as soon as the plague is over, I harden my heart. Oh, I still read the Bible and pray and do all the things that I should be doing, but not with the fervency with which I do it when I'm going through the hard times, when there are financial struggles, or when there's a pandemic in our nation and around the world, or when I'm in the plague, as you might say. In this way, I realized then that I am just like Pharaoh. God sends hard times to me, a plague if you will, and I decide to listen for his voice and seek him and ask and do whatever he wants me to do. But then when the hard time goes away, or when that plague is lifted, I go right back to how I always was, coasting through each day without really longing to hear from God. But I want that to change. When this pandemic is over, I don't want to go back to my regular Bible reading and prayer. I want to still seek and search for God like I am right now during this pandemic. I don't want to be like Pharaoh. I want to be like the people in Isaiah 58:2. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways. As a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God, they ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. How about the Christians in Acts chapter 17, verse 11? They received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily. I want that to be me every day, not just when I'm going through the trials. I want to really seek after God daily and delight to know his ways and delight in coming to God in prayer every day, even when everything's okay. I want that kind of Christianity, not the kind where I only need God when I'm in trouble. And I know that is one of the reasons God allows us to go through hard times or the plagues, because without them, we may never really, really long to know him and search for him with all our hearts. And now that I've seen this in myself, I really want to change that. How about you? Has this pandemic caused you to seek more diligently than ever before after God and his ways and read his word and pray more? That's good, but don't stop. When all this is over and life has returned to normal, or when the plague has stopped, will your life be business as usual? Will you have changed in any way from all of this? I believe that's what God wants. He wants us to change. Will you still seek him and search for him like you did when we were in the pandemic? Or will you harden your heart and be just like Pharaoh? Something to think about.